Hey everybody, this is Christina. Hope everyone's been having a great week. This is my research proposal presentation that I've created. The title is Climate Change and an Increase in Lyme Disease Rates in North America. Let me go to the next slide here. So, the motivations and my interests in this topic have various reasons. Number one, I myself had contracted Lyme disease and I was actively and chronically ill from 2010 through 2012. I experienced multiple barriers in the healthcare system, repeated denials of healthcare coverage, over a year of antibiotic resistance, incorrect medication treatment, and long term physical and psychological side effects. The other reason I wanted to research this topic is to um, further advocate and spread awareness about Lyme disease. Many people are still unaware of the presence and negative effects, especially a lot of people that live in Massachusetts, and we're one of the top states in the country. Massachusetts has one of the highest incidence rates of Lyme disease, and I just wanted to learn more about the topic. I find it interesting. So, the research question that I came up with, it's like a multi part question. Is climate change causing an increase of North American black-legged Pacific tick populations? If yes, are the rates of human populations contracting Lyme disease increasing? If the above statements are true, how can people be further educated and taught on tick awareness and how to properly advocate for themselves if they do contract Lyme disease? And how will global governments and figures prepare and protect its citizens against imminent threats of the increases in this disease? And some background and contextual information. There are what we call in the world hard ticks and soft ticks. There are around a little under um, than 1,000 different types of ticks throughout the world. And incredibly, only two species of ticks actually cause Lyme disease. First one is the black-legged tick, also known as the deer tick, excuse me, and the western Pacific black-legged tick. Now, these ticks, as you can see, are very, very similar looking. Um, they're almost identical subspecies, but the black-legged deer tick is found on the throughout the eastern coast, while the Pacific black-legged tick is found on the western coast. The pathology and stages of the disease. So you contract the disease by getting a tick bite. And it's one of two bacteria. The first one is Borrelia burgdorferi, and the second one is Borrelia mayani. Transmission is estimated at 36 to 48 hours, although that is debatable. And humans are most likely to be bitten by nymphs, which are, as you can see right here with the arrows pointing, they're pretty much the teenagers of ticks. They're not fully sized adults, they're not larvae. Um, and usually, what happens is the nymph will embed into the skin for days, and somebody won't even notice that it's there until it's too late. So, the stages of Lyme disease, there's the early localized stage, which is 0 to 30 days. Um, the symptoms are fever, chills, headache, muscle joint aches, swollen lymph nodes, and the infamous bullseye rash. The mid stage is weeks and months into the disease. Symptoms get more intense and frequent. Consistent fevers, dizziness, vertigo, irregular heartbeats, which is called Lyme carditis, memory deficits, pain, swelling, migraines, headaches, and psychological mood disturbances. Now, late stage Lyme disease can get quite serious. You can get Bell's palsy, which is when half your face droops down and you have no control over it. You can get severe heart damage. There is a risk of death as well, and severe cognitive decline. And I put as a note right here that even with proper treatment, the symptoms of Lyme disease may persist during the treatment and months and even years after treatment. And that is called chronic Lyme, when the patient is not able to permanently bounce back and they may be feeling well for a certain period of time, but then they become sick with the symptoms again. And this happens over and over again over a period of time. And it's extremely frustrating. So, moving on to some of the key insights from resources that I studied and read on, I originally had collected over 15 sources and then I narrowed it down to 12 academic sources. I was originally going to discuss all types of tick diseases that spread to humans in North America, but I decided to narrow it down to Lyme disease because that is the most commonly reported tick-borne disease. And the term vector-borne means that it is a disease from an arthropod or an insect that feeds on the blood of another creature, so another human or animal, and that's how they survive. So, other examples of vector-borne diseases would be from mosquitoes, such as malaria, dengue fever, Zika, and then Ebola. So, the vector-borne diseases are like a whole group of types of diseases. So, but this study focused on Lyme disease in North America. So clearly, for this project, this proposal, I used the quantitative discovery paradigm, and I found an abundance of sources right off the bat. The sources that I ended up using used inferential statistics, longitudinal studies, and epidemiological research. One of the articles, for example, measure daily temperatures over periods of time in different areas, different locations of where these Ixodes tick populations are present, and then use statistics to calculate mass charts and tables to compare the temperatures and then the presence and the populations of the ticks. And then they also used data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and collected that information from that as well, and the results showed that there's an imminent threat to an increase in the presence of Lyme disease, and the populations of the black-legged ticks are increasing, although they're not always increasing in a linear fashion, but I'll get more on that in a bit. So the main key insight that I was researching was to find out if climate change is directly causing an increase in the black-legged tick populations and therefore increasing rates of Lyme disease. And the research on the obtained literature is unanimous in total agreement in that the hypothesis that rates of Lyme disease have been increasing, particularly within the past few decades, are due to climate change. However, they also found other causal factors. Um, so the main reason that was studied is the increase in global temperature, which is disrupting all sorts of ecosystems and processes in our land and oceans. So the other factors besides global temperature increase are human related issues going on. So, negative human environmental practices such as deforestation, habitat loss, loss of biodiversity through monofarming and unsustainable practices. So, as you can see in this video down here, um, it is an example of what's called monoculture farming. It's as you can see, all these plants here, these are palmarosa oil. Excuse me, palm oil, not palmarosa. And all of the other like combination of different trees and plants have been wiped out completely. Um, and this is what is being done largely in the Amazon rainforest, deforestation to be replaced with this type of farming. It's to mass produce different products and items made from the oils of the palm trees and whatnot. And this practice is just catastrophic to biodiversity. And biodiversity means having an abundance of plants and animals, insects, our whole ecosystem, all the checks and balances. And the planet is healthy when biodiversity is high. So the planet is healthy when all species are thriving and extinctions are not occurring. So we're entering a period of mass extinctions. So this practice just destroys the ecosystem and increases not just tick diseases, but all other types of diseases as well. Some factors that are increasing Lyme disease in Massachusetts, and I should have written that as New England overall. Continued land development, habitat loss leading to further tick invasion, milder winters, wetter summers, which create advantages in the life cycle of the tick. So, as you can see on this map here, the ticks go through a resting period in the winter, and the eggs start to hatch here in the spring. What's happening is we're getting milder winters, so there's no rest period, and basically their life cycle is just getting accelerated and accelerated. So they're really getting an advantage here. As you can see in this video, this person is recording on a trail, like a woods trail that is marked. So, what are some things that you can do to protect yourself and keep yourself aware? Um, from preventing contracting Lyme disease and other tick vector borne diseases. Some strong methods of protection are wearing protective gear and clothing in the woods. Um, don't try to avoid wearing black and brown because it's hard to show up on ticks are hard to show up with those colors. Use EPA approved bug sprays. After being outside, always check yourself for ticks using a full length mirror. Check your armpits, every area where you think that they aren't, they might be. And if you can, immediately shower after you get back. And be sure to check your pets every time as well. If you get bitten by a tick, there are instructions that you can go to the CDC on. You want to be sure that you're doing it correctly because if you don't remove the head of the tick correctly here, little bits of it can stay embedded in your skin and you don't want that. So thank you everybody for watching my video. It's been a great semester and I'm really grateful and I'm looking forward to watching everybody else's videos. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye bye.